かも、もうこう
So very exciting. Today we are going to be tea picking some fresh spring buds by hand, and therefore we've come to Uji-tawara. And you can see the tea gardens here behind me. We've been here before. This is the regular tea garden of tea farmer Yamaguchi. And over there in the back you can see the tea garden where everyone is now setting up. And I don't know how many people we will be joined by, but I think 10 or 20, some around 20 people will be picking the tea from that specific tea garden. It was actually an overgrown tea garden that has been cut back all the way, and so now finally, after I think it's 3 or 4 years, very early on really, the tea is able to get picked. And so this is the first time really that they're harvesting this tea garden. They're native seed grown bushes, and we're just going to have an enjoyable time spending a beautiful day out in nature, and I will take you along on the journey.
Noah, you okay? Come on.
大きいのはね、ちっちゃかったらもう普通にいっちゃっていいですよ。こういうの大きいじゃないですか。でこれ硬化してきて下が茶色くなってまあなってないですけど、これこんぐらいでいっちゃうんですよ。こういう感じでこうやって硬いなと思ったらなんか硬化してるかも、もうこうみたいな。ちょっといける程度で、はい。で硬いなと思ったら上の方行ってもらって大丈夫です。残しても大丈夫なんで。これとかも歯がちょっとなんかおかしくなっちゃってるんで、ちょっと弱ってるんで、こういう感じで。で、容器積もうと思ったらこう寄せてこう積むんですよ。そしたら楽です。
ああ、なるほど。
で、こういう感じで魚の骨みたいに目って生えてるんですよね。こうやったら下からこう順番にこう落としていくんですよ。こうやってこう落としていくんですよ。こうやって。そしたらなんか楽ですね。これでもただこうなっちゃうんで、こういうガクとかが入っちゃうと、これ多分この硬いとこなんで、
これは行くけどこれは行かない。
そうですね。どうしてもこういうのとかでも入っちゃってるんですけど、こういうのとかぐらいで全然、ここちょっとあんまり。
It's right about lunchtime now. Still see everyone picking over there. We've picked quite a bunch, and it's actually going pretty well, pretty quick. There's a lot of people, and there's a lot of tea that is being harvested at the moment. Now, I want to take the time to make a little experiment, and for that experiment I've gathered some tea leaf here in my hat. These are some freshly picked tea leaves, and the experiment that I want to do is, for which I'm going to also boil some water from the beautiful river here. This water is unpolluted and drinkable, so I'm going to get some water from the river, and then I'm going to, well, after the water is boiled, put this tea leaf in it, and I'm going to experiment to see if you can actually make tea out of freshly picked tea leaves. Because I know that that is a question that a lot of people ask. Does the tea really have to be dried and kneaded before you can make tea out of it and can have some flavor from it, or can you actually just steep the fresh leaf as well? And instead of just saying what it is, I'm going to show the results through an experiment, and I'm going to drink it here for you, and we will tell you what it tastes like. So we got us some water from the river. Now let's go boil it.
When it's done, can I have a try?
Yeah, we're actually doing an experiment.
Oh.
We're trying to brew the fresh leaf, which is not supposed to taste like anything. But we'll find out.
Oh.
So what we're going to do, and I'm actually filming this as well,
Oh.
is we're going to brew in this teapot a bit of this leaf. So we're going to put some hot water on it. So I'm just going to put the fresh leaf that I picked in the teapot. I'm going to throw some hot water on it. And we'll see how it's going to taste. I've brewed the fresh tea leaves. It doesn't seem like any color has come out, or it's going to turn out like anything, but I'll just brew it, I'll pour it out, and we'll have a look at how it tastes. Not much color to see. A little pale green. Let's have a sniff. It smells very green. It's very starchy, almost like boiled potatoes.
Yeah. I'm going to
Very
do
nice.
one more time.
So let's have a look at it.
Not much color.
So let's see how this has turned out. It smells very fresh, and it smells almost like if you're walking in a tea factory, which is basically what I think they do after with the steaming. That's technically how it smells. It's surprising, actually. I'd never tried it before. I'd always assumed that you have to process the tea before you can actually get something out of it, but this is actually surprisingly nice. It's very fresh. I don't think you get much out of the leaf because you haven't rolled it, it's not crushed up and the veins aren't broken up so that it can release flavor into the brew. But it's just very calm, very nice, I think. Yeah, having tried it, we can say it's not impossible to get some flavor out of the freshly harvested leaf, even without doing any processing to it. Cheers! I think what we should try next is to put the tea leaf directly in the boiling kettle and just boil it out. So let's try that next. So now we're going to immediately insert some raw leaf into the teapot, and we are just going to boil it. See what the boil looks like. Just throw everything in there. I mean, what else are we going to use it for? Okay. There we go. And then we'll just put it back on the boil. Oh, it starts to smell like a tea factory. It's boiling. See the leaf boiling in there. Oh, and that steam just really smells like the moment you walk into a tea factory. Which makes sense, really, because that's what happens in a tea factory. It's not boiled, but it's steamed, and so that it smells similar is not a strange thing. I guess boiling it gets a lot more color. If you compare to what we had earlier, it was very pale. This is much more close to, well, closer to what you'd usually have. So let's see how this turns out. I don't know if boiling the tea leaf is any good as to flavor, but much nicer color already. Let's have a sip. It does smell more like potato, like, you know, the water in which you boil potatoes. It smells way more like that than the simple brew. Oh, it's a bit hot. It's too hot to taste. Well, you know, to be honest, it's nicer when it's just brewed and not boiled in the water. The color is nicer and there's more aroma, but there really isn't any fragrance or flavor if it's boiled. So I've also just had the second brew, the second steeping of the first one we tried, which was just an infusion with hot water in a teapot. And it's surprising how much flavor still remains, as well as how sweet it is. The one that we boiled just didn't release much of that sweetness, and it wasn't impressive really as to flavor. It was just like boiling water of your potatoes, basically. Not that that was unpleasant, it was nice, but nothing I would recommend. The regular brew, the infusion, is much more agreeable, but you get a lot more flavor out of sencha after it's steamed and rolled and processed and dried and everything, because then also the veins are broken up, the leaf is it's a little bit damaged, which allows it to release more of its flavor components. And again, there's also a firing process, the heating process also enhances some of the aromas of the tea. So flavor wise and thinking of what would be a more delicious tea, I would say definitely the processed tea is going to be much more delicious. I would prefer that. And also it works better for preservation, because tea keeps quite a while, and freshly picked tea is only going to oxidize and it won't keep very long. So it is not impossible to make a cup of tea from freshly picked leaves, but it's definitely not something that is durable and that you can continue on doing. So that was the experiment. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you learned something from it. And what did you think of it?
I was kind of surprised. I wasn't expecting there to be any flavor at all, really, but like you said, the first infusion, it really tasted and smelled just like the leaves are when they're being steamed, which is a really interesting other side of tea. But yeah, I think whoever decided on the process for processing tea really knew what they were doing, because that was definitely a very, very light flavor, so I don't know if I would go out of my way to try it again.
So that's the conclusion of our tiny project. It's nice if you're out in the tea gardens. You could try it, you could give it a go and enjoy that as one other species of tea. But with processing tea you can get so many more approaches, so many more different kinds of flavor, aroma. etc., that the processing really is a very important stage of tea production. And next time I will continue to go for some nicely processed sencha or kamairicha. So now that we've come to Uji-tawara, hello. Now that we've come to Uji-tawara, we're going to also visit the birthplace of Nagatani So'en. Nagatani So'en is the inventor, so to say, the person who discovered the way to produce sencha, and his birthhouse is over here. So we're going to take a look, and well, I'll show you. So in 1745, Nagatani So'en discovered how to process picked tea leaf and how to roll it in several stages for the manufacturing of sencha. And of course he begins like what is common and what was common at the time for matcha as well, with steaming the leaf, but then would go through different stages for hand processing. And he created a table that is heated from underneath, on which this process, these different stages, are executed. And this is what that old table looks like. And in the back over there, there's a new table, but it's papered with, well, old paper, old documents, and then it is sort of waxed with kakishibu. Kakishibu is like extract from the persimmon fruit, and this basket too is used to well, scoop the leaf that you need and transport it. So this is what that table looked like, and on this he performed the several rolling and kneading stages to produce tea. And so what the purpose is really of those different rolling stages is to knead the leaf and roll them up so that they also start drying out. The kneading really is to press the saps that are inside the leaf out, and then the heat from the table on which the process is executed helps with the evaporation of the moisture that has surfaced on the leaf. So through these different stages he discovered that, well, tea dries out very well, and by rolling and kneading the tea, the veins of the leaf are broken up, and so later on when you are going to brew the tea, more flavor is released and more components are extracted to produce a much more delicious tea leaf. And that is what he invented in around 1745, when Sencha culture during that time was also picking up and getting more interest in Japan, and more leaf tea types were drunk throughout the country. Before that it was majorly matcha. Here we are at the birdhouse of the person who discovered how Japanese Sencha is produced really nowadays, because all the machines and the mechanized equipment are based off of his rolling techniques. Now before we go, we'll just have a quick look at the shrine here, which is also dedicated to the founder, well not the founder, but the inventor of the Sencha production method, Nagatani So'en. And I'll show you here, this is the shrine. And here under this torii, you can go up. And there's a little shrine where we can pay our respects. And so we'll make our way back down, and having come to Uji-tawara this way, we've been able to do some little sightseeing, learn some about the history of Sencha, learn some about the culture of tea, and we had some tea picking, we had a nice experiment, and we had a good day, I would say. It is the season where the new tea is in production, and it's always nice to begin the season with again a reminder of where the culture comes from, the heritage of Japanese tea culture, and well, with a visit to Uji-tawara. So if you visit Japan, I would definitely recommend to come also and have a look at the origins of Sencha here in Uji-tawara.